Hello there, welcome to my channel. I'm Angela from artofrye.com. I know I've said this before, but this should be a fairly quick video today. This technique is called the Joseph's Coat technique. There is also another way to do this, which includes adding layers. I will link to that video. I think it's from Sasha Reed. I'll link to that video in my description because it's really good. But this is just the basic technique. It's sort of a cross between emboss resist and the blackout technique. It's a bit of both, but it's very easy to do, but you will use a lot of black ink. So I don't know if you can see on there, the embossing wasn't great, so I'll try to do better. But I also thought as well that this used quite light coloured inks, but I'm going to try some more vibrant darker inks and just see what I get from there. Now for this, you can use any inks, you can use any stamps, it doesn't matter, just use anything, whatever you have, use. I'm going to, I've cut some, this is just 200 GSM and it seems to work fine. I'm going to use this stamp set. It's Magnificent Butterflies from Crafter's Companion. It's actually the first time I've used it. I just wanted to use some of my new stash because it's just building up and I'm not really doing anything with it, which is obviously a waste of money. I'm going to use some quite dark and vibrant autumn colours. These are Distress Oxides, Tea Dye, Rustic Wilderness and Lumberjack Plaid. I'm going to be using clear embossing powder and we'll see how we go from there. Right, excuse me. So first of all, I'm going to use the green. You'll have to excuse my silly little brushes. I've got loads and loads of brushes, but only a few set aside for Distress Oxide, so I'm going to have to wash some out and have some more for this use. So basically you just start by adding your ink anywhere you like. Do not worry about having perfect blending or anything like that, because this is a very forgiving technique. So as you can see, this is not perfectly blended. It doesn't need to be. I'm not bothered about that at all. So I'm going to now take my stamping platform. This is an absolutely beautiful stamp. I love it. I'm going to give it a couple of coats of embossing ink. And as usual, I've forgotten to add the anti-static powder to the page. We'll see how that goes. So now I want to get on the clear embossing powder. I hope it doesn't matter that I've forgotten to use the anti-static bag, but I can always do another one. These are very quick to do. Yeah, you see, because I didn't use the anti-static powder, that has just covered everything. Oh well, I'll leave that mistake in so you can try not to make the same one. Because the ink stays wet for a little while, I think I'll dry it off. I'm using my Sizzix heat tool on number 1. Hopefully that'll help. So your dye inks, you shouldn't have this trouble with your dye inks because they soak into the page immediately and they dry almost immediately. But with your distress inks, there's a little bit of pigment that stays on top of the page and takes a little bit longer to dry. So I'm quite pleased that happened actually, because if it can help somebody else. So now I am using a lot of anti-static powder to try and dry all of this and make sure there are no fingerprints or anything on it. And don't worry about having what you would call too much powder on, because that'll all come off in the end, as you will see. Every time I say it's going to be a quick video, be prepared for a long haul. It is so typical that things that work off camera go wrong on camera. So I'm going to show you how to do this, and then I am going to try a different colour, a different type of ink, a dye ink, to see if that makes any difference. So I'm going to let that cool down a bit, and then I will try it with some dye inks. I have quite a lot of them from Stampin' Up, so I'll try those. So once it's cool, you can take some dark ink. Any dark ink will do. It doesn't have to be black, it can be any colour. And you just got to rub it all over the page. And then what you do is you can take a microfibre cloth or some kitchen roll and just start rubbing. And that embossing will resist the ink, so it should just rub right off. Then if you want to, give it a buff with a clean cloth. Just to get rid of all that excess black ink off the parts that's embossed. Right, so that is the technique. Don't ask me why it hasn't worked this time when it did the first time. So, like I said, this was supposed to be a short video. I'm going to try a different ink now and see what happens. The only thing I can think of is that I perhaps used a bit too much ink. Maybe I wasn't supposed to soak the paper that much. So, I shall get out my other brushes. Right, I am not going to go too mad. I'm just laying down that much colour to see if that makes a difference. Once again, I'm going to dry it off on number 1. And I have a feeling I know what I did wrong. I did not clean my stamp after using it. I think that was the problem. So I'm going to give that a clean now and see if that helps. I'm using alcohol to clean it. Let's see if that's made a difference. I have a feeling it's more to do with that than it is the ink. We shall see. Aha, I've done it again. Honestly, when am I going to learn? Wow, that looks as though it has stamped better already on there, to be honest. But we're not going to really be able to tell until we've got the embossing powder on there. So I'll put this away and I will clean it. Oh my goodness, yes. Can you see that? That is much better. I think it was probably because I hadn't cleaned my stamp properly after I'd used it from the first one, because I thought because I was going to use it again it would be okay. Obviously that is not the case. Right, I'm going to heat this up and see what happens. And there we go. That does look better, but we're not going to be able to tell until we start getting the ink on. I'm wondering if I should use a different colour ink, but no. I'm determined to try and get this right with the black. Honestly, what am I like? That's why I like to leave my mistakes in, because it may help somebody else. You never know. I think I'm ready for re-inking this, because the only time I've used this ink is for a process like this, so the ink is just running out. Oh yes, oh yes. That is looking so much better. I genuinely don't know whether that is the ink, the coloured ink that I've used, or if it's to do with keeping my stamp clean. I don't know. But how beautiful. That's what I mean about this process being very, very forgiving, because it doesn't matter what your blending's like, you are still going to get those beautiful colours shining through like that. So apart from that little bit in the corner that I've missed, that is absolutely stunning. What a difference that's made. I might try it again with Distress inks and make sure that the stamp is clean and I've doused it thoroughly in the anti-static powder. But that is just so much better. I am liking that. Okay, I shall turn this into a card probably and then come back. So here's the finished card. I just matted it onto a gold panel and put it on a white card base. Just added a gold sentiment to match the gold panel and just added a few Nuvo drops. I'm still not sure why the Distress Oxides didn't work. I think it was probably me. As you can see, this turned out a lot better. So the steps I took to use my Distress Oxide inks were, first of all, making sure that the stamp was very, very clean. I think that was the main issue. And then when I put on the Distress Oxides, I dried it with my heat tool. You could obviously, if you don't have a heat tool, just leave it to dry for however long it takes. And then using a lot of anti-static powder, covered the whole thing, and then just took it from there. And as you can see, it has turned out a lot better. That is really nice. In fact, I wish I'd made it proper card panel size now, because it would have made a nice card. I could just use it for something else, I suppose, but anyway, if you were struggling like I was using your Distress Oxide inks, that's the way to do it. But like I said, you can use any ink for this process. It's very forgiving, it's very easy to do, and it's very dramatic. I love the look. I thank you so much for watching, putting up with all of my mistakes as usual. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate your subscription. I would really appreciate it if you could like, comment and share. That would really help my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye now.